"You're not going to MIT," my dad declared. "You'll stay and take care of your brother." That night, I took my savings and left forever. Years later, they begged me to save them. I'm a 28-year-old man, and for as long as I can remember, I was always aware of my position in the family. It was the lowest. From a young age, it was obvious that my younger sibling, Benjamin, was the favorite, the son around which everything in our household revolved. I never imagined there'd come a day when they'd be the ones turning to me for support, but fate has a strange way of flipping the script. In our average suburban neighborhood, the family dynamic was set early on. When I made the honor roll, my parents would barely notice. When Benjamin brought home a C++, they'd reward him with ice cream for making progress. If I had an important basketball match, there was always a reason they couldn't attend, usually Benjamin's soccer practice. But when he played, they never missed a second. Front row, camera in hand, shouting the loudest. Even on Christmas mornings, the pattern continued. I'd open gifts like socks, school materials, or perhaps a secondhand novel. Meanwhile, Benjamin would unwrap brand new gaming console, brand name clothing, and whatever trendy item was hot that year. At 14, I spent months saving from my newspaper delivery job to get myself a decent pair of sneakers. When my mom saw them, she criticized me for spending on pointless indulgences. The very next day, she arrived with $500 cleats for Benjamin because, as she put it, he needed them to grow. My weekends weren't spent watching cartoons or hanging out. I was outside cutting grass, clearing gutters, or babysitting Benjamin, while my parents either caught up on rest or ran errands. "You're mature and dependable," they'd say, as if that justified turning me into unpaid help around the house. Despite this lack of emotional or academic support, I managed to excel in school. I kept a perfect GPA, taught myself how to code during lunch breaks in the school's computer lab, and held a part-time job at a local supermarket to put money aside for college. I applied to every scholarship I could find, staying up past midnight after finishing my daily chores and homework. Then came the life-changing moment, an acceptance letter from MIT, full financial aid, covered tuition, dorm fees, a stipend, even funds for books and living expenses. All the years of effort and late nights had finally paid off. My hands shook as I read and reread that letter, hardly able to believe it was real. That evening at dinner, I carefully waited for the right opportunity. Finally, I laid the letter on the table and announced the news. I had gotten into MIT, with everything paid for. My dad glanced at the page and went back to eating. My mom gave it a quick look, then turned to Benjamin and said, "Did you mention to your brother that you made the junior varsity basketball team?" And just like that, the most important achievement of my life was tossed aside so they could gush over Benjamin's fairly standard success. I sat there, my fork hovering in the air, while they carried on about how he'd surely make varsity the following year. I might have swallowed my disappointment and gone on to pursue my dreams at MIT, leaving behind their emotional neglect. But 2 weeks later, my dad called us together for a family discussion. At the kitchen table, he told me that after a lot of thought, they decided I wouldn't be going to MIT. Instead, I'd be attending the nearby community college. If I did well, I could transfer to a state university after 2 years. They insisted it made more sense financially and was more realistic, despite the full scholarship MIT had offered me. Then the truth came out. My mom, dabbing at dry eyes, explained that Benjamin was about to begin high school and would need extra attention and guidance. With my dad traveling more because of a recent promotion, and my mom taking additional shifts at the hospital, they needed someone at home to keep things running smoothly and to make sure Benjamin stayed on track. My father's tone turned cold the moment I voiced my disagreement. "So long as you're living in this house, you will abide by our expectations," he said sternly. Then my mother delivered the final emotional blow. "How could you even consider walking away from your family at a time like this, especially after all we've sacrificed for you?" Their idea of everything they've done nearly made me laugh out loud. I gave a nod and told them I got the message, which wasn't entirely false. I did get the message, loud and clear. Once again, I was being offered up for Benjamin's benefit. That night, I made up my mind. I contacted the scholarship office to formally accept the award and to ask about available dorm arrangements before classes started. I reached out to Ethan, my closest friend, and the only person who had never let me down, and asked if he'd be okay with me storing some belongings at his place. Over time, I began relocating my most valuable things to his garage: clothing, my laptop, the coding manuals I had worked hard to buy, and a small secured container holding my identification documents, quietly taken from my parents' file drawer. I withdrew all my savings and opened an account with a different bank. I picked up extra hours at work, telling my parents we were short-staffed. I sold off anything I couldn't bring with me on eBay, shipping everything from Ethan's address. All the while I acted the part, agreeing with their talks about local college enrollment and the new tasks I'd be taking on, since I'd only be taking a couple classes. I even helped Benjamin finish his assigned summer reading project, all while secretly watching the days pass, getting closer to my departure. On the day I left, I got up before the sunrise. Most of my things were already gone. Only a small travel bag with essentials remained. I left a note on my mattress. I'm choosing a new direction. Please don't try to reach me. Ethan was parked a short distance away, waiting in his car. As we drove to the bus depot, I felt something unfamiliar. Relief. For the first time, I was choosing me. Each mile between me and that house made the years of emotional neglect feel lighter. Once at MIT, I began to thrive. Freed from constantly being the family's go-to helper, I started to realize what I was capable. I graduated at the top of my computer science cohort. Every summer, I landed high-profile internships and built a strong support system of mentors and peers who truly appreciated me. After earning my degree, I joined a prominent tech firm in Silicon Valley. My initial paycheck was more than what both my parents brought home combined. In under 3 years, I climbed the ranks, promoted twice. At 26, I purchased my first home, a sleek condo in an upscale district. I made smart investments, created a safety net, and even launched a small nonprofit that awards scholarships to youth from emotionally neglectful homes. All this time, I remained completely out of contact with my family. At first, they tried calls, emails, even reaching out through shared connections. I didn't answer a single attempt. I kept my online presence deliberately minimal. No real name accounts, no photos, no easy trail to follow. I even had MIT remove me from public listings. No graduation announcement, no alumni directory appearance. Keeping them in the dark wasn't difficult. They'd never cared about my achievements in the past. Why would they suddenly start looking into my life now? To them, I was likely still the disappointing older sibling who refused to step up. That narrative worked just fine for me. I was finally living a life where I mattered, where my efforts were acknowledged. Eventually, I found love. Denise, a brilliant fellow engineer with her own complicated family story, instinctively respected my emotional boundaries. I began therapy to start healing from my upbringing, and slowly I created what my therapist described as a chosen family. Friends who truly cared, who celebrated my milestones, who never made me feel like an afterthought. 7 full years elapsed without a single message or call from my relative. Then, on a seemingly typical Tuesday morning, my phone rang, displaying a contact number I still recognized, even after years of silence. My dad's voice reached my ear, noticeably aged but retaining the same firm and commanding tone I remembered from my youth. He skipped any greeting, gave no apology, and didn't mention the long gap since our last conversation. Instead, he got straight to business. Benjamin was tying the knot. His bride-to-be, Julia, the offspring of a well-connected local entrepreneur. The ceremony was to be extravagant, hosted at a high-end location in our hometown. I was summoned to attend, not just for appearance's sake, but also to represent family togetherness. And, predictably, they wanted money from me. "We're thinking 15 grand should be your part," my father stated bluntly. When I didn't say anything right away, his demeanor shifted, his tone sharpening. "Considering all we've provided for you, the least you could do is support your sibling on this important occasion." That worn-out line again, everything they had supposedly done for me. "And if I decline?" I asked, keeping my tone steady. "Then forget about the college fund. We've been safeguarding it for you," he replied. "But if you can't give back to your family, don't expect anything from us." I almost laughed out loud. They believed I was still enrolled in college, still thought I relied on them. They had absolutely no clue what I had accomplished without them. "Dad," I said in a low voice, "I finished my degree at MIT half a decade ago. I now serve as an executive director at a major global tech firm. My annual salary exceeds $750,000. I own my property completely. I haven't needed your financial help since I walked away, and I certainly don't need it today." The silence that followed was intense. For once, my father was at a loss for words. "As for Benjamin's wedding," I added, "I won't be there. I won't be sending money either. He was never my burden, no matter how hard you tried to make him mine. That hasn't changed." I disconnected the call before he could offer a response. I assumed that would be the last of it, but I was mistaken. 3 months went by before my mother reached out. Her voice cracked, desperate and tearful. Something I had never heard before. The wedding was canceled. Julia's parents had uncovered secrets from Benjamin's history, specifically that he had misappropriated funds from a past job in order to bankroll his expensive habits. The legal matter had been dealt with discreetly to avoid public scandal, but Julia's father had influence and learned the truth. The engagement was terminated. The non-refundable expenses lost. To fund the event, my parents had taken out a second home loan assuming they'd recoup some costs through wedding gifts. Now they were left holding the debt for a celebration that never happened, and things got even worse. After the theft became public knowledge, Benjamin was fired from his current job. My parents then refinanced their home again, this time to assist with legal fees and repayment demands. Now they were staring down the possibility of foreclosure. "We need your support," my mother wept. "We're about to lose everything." They were looking for $225,000 to keep the house and settle their most urgent liabilities. My dad took over the call, his voice stripped of its usual dominance. "Son," he began, "I realize we've had our disagreements. That barely scratched the surface. But we're your family. We made poor choices with you. I can admit that now. Please give us a chance to make things right." I agreed to meet them that weekend at a cafe close to their home. I made no promises, just that I'd listen. When I arrived, they all appeared stunned. My dad's hair had turned completely silver. My mom's features were marked with tension and age. Benjamin, still good-looking on the surface but visibly heavier, slouched in his seat with the same smug energy I remembered well. I took a seat across from them, placing my laptop bag on the neighboring chair. That morning I had chosen my outfit with care. A fitted suit, high-end timepiece, the quiet signals of success I knew they would recognize. "Thank you for being here," my mother said, reaching for my hand. My fingers stayed curled around the mug, absorbing its warmth. "We've truly missed having you around," my mother said softly. For the next 20 minutes, they rotated through their tragic tale. The letter about losing the house, the mess Benjamin had gotten himself into, the canceled wedding plans, and the deposits that were now gone for good. They'd burned through their retirement fund, reached out to friends for loans, sold off anything worth money. Now they had no remaining option. "We're still your family," my mother said with finality, "no matter how things played out before." I took another drink, slowly setting the cup back down on the table. "When I was 16, I said carefully, I spent 6 months saving money to buy a graphing calculator for my AP Calculus course. The night before I was going to purchase it, you took that money so Benjamin could attend baseball camp." My mother turned red, clearly remembering. "Then there was MIT, I went on. I earned a full ride. Everything, tuition, housing, books, covered. And you still decided it was better for me to stay home, to play the role of unpaid babysitter and academic coach for Benjamin. We needed you here," my dad insisted, sounding defensive. "No, you wanted someone to take care of the parenting work you didn't want to deal with. There's a big difference." I looked at each of them, meeting their eyes one by one. "When I needed you most, you always chose Benjamin, again and again, without fail. You threw away my opportunities so his path would stay easy." "That's not fair," Benjamin cut in, his first time speaking. "I didn't ask for any of that." "You're right," I told him. "The decisions were theirs, but you benefited from them, and you never once asked what that cost me." I opened my laptop, turned the screen toward them, and opened my bank app. "I could clear your debts right now," I said. "This amount wouldn't even put a dent in my monthly expenses." I paused, letting the moment settle. "But I'm not going to." "Why the hell not?" my father barked, his voice laced with the authority I knew too well. "Because you were never really my family," I replied evenly. "A real family lifts each other up. They celebrate each other's accomplishments. They give support. They don't just demand it all from one person." I closed the laptop with a soft thud. Looking at my mother's tear-streaked face, I felt hesitation stir. These were still the people who raised me, however flawed that was. Was I becoming just as cold-hearted as they once were to me? Maybe the kind thing to do was help, no matter what. Maybe it was the compassionate choice. I imagined transferring the money, the look of relief on their faces, maybe even a sincere thank you. But then I remembered. Every time I reached out for help and was left alone. All the moments when sacrifices were demanded only from me. I remembered my dad's harsh voice when he told me to give up MIT. I remembered my mother's blank stare when I shared my proudest moments. And I knew, if I helped them now, nothing would be different. They'd take what they needed and go back to treating me like a backup plan. A bank. My doubt vanished. "I created this life in spite of you. Not thanks to you," I said. "And I'm not going to spend what I earned helping people who never believed I was worth anything." My father's face turned red with fury. My mother's crying grew louder. Benjamin stared at me like I had just betrayed them. "You arrogant little bastard," my dad spat, his voice rising enough to attract attention from nearby tables. "If I hear you say, 'after all we did for you,' one more time," I interrupted, my voice low and sharp, "I'll walk out this second. So tell me, Dad, what did you actually do for me? Did you encourage my goals? Did you take pride in my accomplishments? Did you ever put my needs ahead of Benjamin's?" He stayed silent. I stood, gathered my things. "I don't take pleasure in your situation," I said honestly. "I'm sorry this happened. But these financial messes are the consequences of your choices, just like my achievements came from mine." I departed the cafe without glancing back. As my car pulled away, my phone lit up. Calls and texts poured in, not just from my parents and Benjamin, but also from long-estranged relatives and family acquaintances. They had clearly been summoned, sent like emotional enforcers, tasked with guilt-tripping me into submission. I blocked every single one. 2 months later, a message arrived from someone I had known since childhood, an old friend who still lived in my hometown. He told me the house I grew up in had been seized by the bank. Benjamin had moved back in before the eviction, and now all 3 of them were squeezed into a modest rental on the outskirts of town. My father had picked up overnight work as a security officer. My mother had started working grueling back-to-back shifts at the hospital. Benjamin remained unemployed. Another 6 months went by, and a new update came through. My parents had separated. The weight of financial ruin had finally shattered their marriage. Benjamin had been arrested once more, this time for writing fraudulent checks. My mother sent one final pleading email, this time to my company email, begging me to help her, if not Benjamin. I never wrote back. Some people would call me cruel. Some might argue that, regardless of their actions, they're still my parents, still my brother. But blood alone doesn't define family. True family is built on mutual respect, on support that's given without strings, on love that's offered freely, not demanded like a debt. Through therapy, I've come to understand that establishing firm boundaries isn't revenge. It's self-preservation. I've learned to separate empathy from obligation, that I can feel sorrow for what they're going through without stepping in to rescue them. They arrived at this outcome through their own choices, just as I arrived at mine through mine. Now my life is full of people who genuinely value me. My career is thriving. Denise and I are planning a future together, a marriage founded on mutual care and equality, not guilt or manipulation. My chosen community, friends who consistently show me love and kindness, have brought joy into my life that I never once believed I'd experience. Sometimes the family you're born into is not the family you're meant to stay with. Sometimes you have to create your own circle with people who truly see your worth. That's not a misfortune. It's not retaliation. It's fairness. It's justice.
Asterisk. After listening to today's story, perhaps it has raised some new questions in your mind, or maybe it has brought back some old memories. Every day on Reddit, new experiences and moments create fresh stories, and they connect all of us. Everyone has their own unique journey in life, and we all try to understand the world in our own way. These kinds of moments remind us that we are all human, sometimes happy, sometimes sad, and always learning something new. If you enjoyed this story, feel free to share it with your friends. Your thoughts and feedback are always valuable to us, as they motivate us to create even better content. Every story has its own unique angle, and our goal is to understand everyone's perspective and make our content diverse and relatable. Stories like these help us realize that life's journey is different for everyone, and by hearing other stories, we learn something new. You can also share your own stories with us. Your experiences are valuable to us as well, and if you enjoyed this video, please leave your feedback. We aim to create content that brightens your mind and gives you new ideas every time. If you've already seen this video before, your feedback is still important. With every piece of feedback, we can improve our content and bring a new perspective to our viewers. Today, what we saw was just a small part of the many stories shared on Reddit and across the world. It's a reminder of how we all try to understand life by sharing our experiences with each other. This video was only an example of how we try to connect with others through storytelling, learning about different sides of life. We hope to continue sharing such stories that help us all learn and grow together. Thank you for your time, and don't forget to keep an eye out for more stories coming soon. If you haven't already, please like and follow for more amazing content. Your support keeps us going, and we will strive to bring you more thought-provoking and heartwarming stories. Until next time, take care and stay curious. Asterisk.